Hi, my name is Kelly Hamilton, and I'm here with Assistant Fire Chief Eric Reeder at the Chillicothe Fire Department. So, to start off, I was just going to ask you where you grew up.
Well, Kelly, I grew up in Chillicothe. I have lived all my life in Chillicothe. Born and raised here, and my parents were born and raised here. So, um, never had a desire to go anywhere else. So, and luckily my kids are living here. So,
All right, and where did you go to school?
I went to school here, graduated from Chillicothe High School, and then after being out of school for about 10, 15 years, I went back to the vocational school for some education for the firefighter EMT paramedic training. And then I also finished my degree with NCMC. I have an associate's degree with NCMC in Trenton. Um, so that's the formal education. I've done a lot of other outside classes with the fire service and things like that, but that's the formal education.
All right, and what did you do before you decided to become a firefighter?
So before I became a firefighter, I was the manager of a country kitchen restaurant that is no longer in existence here in town, but I did that for several years. And actually got into this job um, because we came up here to borrow fire hose to wash our parking lot off at Country Kitchen. And come up here and borrowed some fire hose, and they said, "Hey, did you ever think about being a paid by call?" And I didn't know what a paid by call was, and it's a part-time firefighter. And so man, that sounds like a pretty neat gig. And so I applied and did the testing and got on, and actually was just a part-time firefighter for about 8 years while I still worked at Country Kitchen. And but then it just kind of got to where I could see myself doing it on a full-time basis. And so part of that was getting some more education because you have to have the EMT paramedic. So when I decided to go full-time in 1999, I had to go to paramedic school, and I've been doing it full-time since 1999.
All right, did you have to weigh any options before you decided to become paramedic?
You know, the first opportunity I had to come to work here full-time was 2 years prior to when I actually did.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, the options I was weighing was finances, and I opted not to make the change at that time. But then because of my faith, I was able to see that this is where I needed to be. And so then the finances really didn't matter once I decided to trust in my faith and that this is where God was leading me to go.
Okay, and you mentioned going to VOTEC
Mm-hmm.
to finish that out. How long did you have to go, and what classes did you have to take?
So we have a firefighter 1 and 2 program, which is about a 9-month course. And then there's a practical exam that you take with the state, and then a written exam that you take with the state for each one, for firefighter 1 and firefighter 2. And then we have hazardous materials training that goes with that. There's 4 levels of that, and I've been through 3 levels: awareness, operations, and the technician level. And then as far as the EMS side, to get your EMT license it's about a year-long process with there again two testing procedures with the state, and then the paramedic is a 15-month process. Now that being said, as far as education, we have to continuously to keep our paramedics license, to keep our firefighter 1 and 2, we have to do continuing education constantly to keep that up to date. So once we have the initial education, it's really just an ongoing process because things change all the time in fire and EMS. So always going to school.
Did you just want to be EMS or just want to be a firefighter, or did you always envision both?
Really here locally, the only option is the combination of fire EMS. since I was, I've there again raised and born here, I had no desire to leave or go anywhere else. So for me, the only option was the combination. A lot of people do want just one side or the other, but for me that wasn't really an option because I just had no desire to move and go anywhere else. So, and as far as finding jobs in this career, it is it's getting more and more to where even like Kansas City Fire now is requiring EMS training, where they used to be totally separate. They have combined their ambulance and fire department into one now. It's just almost becoming a mandatory that you have some sort of EMS training to get into this career.
Gotcha. So what's a typical day look like for you?
Typical day for me at the firehouse. Well, we always start off the day in our dispatch room up here with my shift, and I'm the shift officer, and we will kind of lay out the plan for the day. Like I said, the training is always something that we're always looking at doing. But first off, we will always do a daily truck check. I'll get it out. A daily truck check of all of our units, ambulance and fire. Make sure everything starts. Make sure everything is stocked for the day and ready to run calls if need be. We live here. We're on staff or we're on shift for 24 hours. So this is our house. That's why it's called a firehouse, is because we do live here. And just like at home, we have to clean. So after we get in, I'm good with that. Ma'am, I love to clean. I'm OCD. And so we clean our trucks, we clean our building, and after that we'll usually then do some training of the morning. The afternoons, a lot of times we may go down to our fire training tower and do some training. And then, obviously all of this is dependent on running ambulance calls or running fire calls because that takes precedence over everything else. So. And then as the assistant chief, I also have a lot of administrative paperwork and stuff that I do throughout the day. It's not fun, but it is important to be done.
So you mentioned 24-hour shifts. How does that get divided up?
So we do every other day for 3 days, and then we will have 4 days off. And we are here for 24 hours, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. If we're not running calls during the night, we each do have our own bed upstairs in the bedroom that we can go to bed and sleep. But obviously, if a call comes in, we have to get up and go. But it works out to about a 10-day-a-month schedule is typically what we work.
Going back to your typical day and dependent upon your calls, is it nice not knowing what your day's going to
That
look
is
like?
the best part about it. Unlike going to a factory and doing the same thing every single day, you never know what today's going to bring, and you can go from sitting here doing absolutely nothing to having a major car wreck or a major fire 30 seconds from now. And so yes, that is the adrenaline rush part of it is what really makes it an exciting career. And then obviously going and helping people, whether it be a medical need or whether it be a fire situation. But that's why we're here. We're here to help the public, protect the public, and help them in a time of need.
Right. You mentioned growing up here. Is it a convenience or a nuisance that you get to work with people that you've known growing up?
A lot of times it is harder to run calls on those people that you've known all your life, especially if it's very traumatic or serious medical call where maybe their life could be coming to an end. That makes it tough if you've known them all your life. But on the other side of that, I've also had people tell me that it was very comforting for the family to have someone there that they've known for so many years, taking care of their loved one. And so from that aspect, it is kind of nice, that it's comforting to family. I've ran a couple calls on my own mother, which makes it a little difficult when you hear the call go out for a medical and it's your parents' address. but that's just what we have to do. That's what we're trained to do, and no matter who it is, we have to go and do our job.
Right. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to become part of EMS or firefighting?
We allow people, especially students, to come up and do some ride-alongs, and it's with the calls, you never know when a call is going to come, so it may take 2 or 3 ride-alongs before you actually get into some calls. But to me, that's very important because you can actually see what it's like. I mean, there's a lot of downtime at times, but then there's other times that you can't keep up with what's going on. But I tell you, there's things that we see, especially traumas and traumatic injuries. And I think it's good when a student can maybe see that if they're thinking about going into this. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I would ever be able to handle seeing traumas and things, but once you've had your training and you have a job to do, you don't even think about it. You just do it. And so I think it's good for the students to do ride-alongs and kind of it's an eye-opening experience, I guess, if they get to run some calls ahead of time. But yeah, it's a great career if somebody's thinking about this career path, because it is just unpredictable. And healthcare is something that once you're involved in healthcare, you don't have to worry about getting laid off. People are always going to be sick and needing, so you're pretty safe job-wise.
What would be your best suggestion you could make to anyone deciding on their career path?
There again, I think doing some visits, getting some education on, hey, what is this going to entail? And there's a lot of different aspects of this. Like I said, there is just the fire side, there is just the EMS side, and not every department works the 24-hour shift. If doesn't fit, there's a lot of ambulance services that just do 8-hour shifts. So you just and those typical in the bigger cities, you're not stationed at like we just station here at this fire station. Those people will be out and about in their ambulance, posted at different places around their city for that 8 hours. So there's different aspects of it. So make sure you look at the whole picture before you actually decide to go into this, because there is a lot of other options. You could fly if you want to fly on a helicopter. That's another option, or maybe a fixed wing aircraft. It's unlimited, when you think about it. You just got to be willing to move around to different cities and things if you want to get into some of those other career paths. But be willing to be in school the rest of your life, because it's an ongoing education experience. It's just always changing, and so we're always doing education.
All right, and my final question is, do you have any other information or advice that would pertain to this interview?
Well, I teach the paramedic class at the vocational school, so if you're really thinking about going into this career path, if you can get involved in the health occupations class at the school in your junior and senior year, they will actually we've worked out a deal where you could actually go ahead and do your EMT level training your senior year of high school, and already have that completed, and then as soon as you graduate high school, you go right into the paramedic. And so by the time you're 20 years old, you've already got your career path set, and you can finish out your associate's degree at Trenton, and you're 20 years old, you've got your education, your licensed paramedic, and away you go. But like I said, just be prepared to do ongoing education, because that's just the way what it requires. So, but it is a good career. It's exciting.
Good. Well, thank you very much for interviewing with me today, and thank you for your time.
Well, I'm glad to help you out, Kelly. Very glad. Thank you.